Welcome to Kentucky Horsepower, the official podcast of the Kentucky Automobile Dealers Association. Good day, everyone. Jason Wilson here with Kentucky Auto Dealer Association, and you are in for another edition of Kentucky Horsepower, the official podcast of KADA. And really excited today. The gentleman joining, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see a familiar face in Jim Fitzpatrick. Jim has of CBT News fame, and we're doing a little bit of a role reversal here. I'm interviewing Jim. So normally you see Jim interviewing all sorts of folks in our industry, from dealers to leaders of the various companies in our industry. And again, decided to mix it up a little bit today. So Jim, welcome. It's good to see you. How are things where you are?
Thank you very much for having me today. I'm excited about today's show, and things are great. We're in Atlanta, so this time of year, it's a little hot and a little sticky, but right. Nevertheless, things are great.
Well, good. Well, look, I figured we'd start sort of a little bit about you. I mean, of course, sure. Anyone that's familiar with CBT News sees you every day. What some may not realize is you were actually a dealer at one point. So let's talk a bit about your background, how sure. You got into automotive and the different things you've done leading up to this point in your career.
Sure. So my journey in automotive starts 42 years ago. I can't believe I just said that. Wow. When I was 18 years old, right after high school, I come from a very big family. I'm number 7 in a family of 8, big Irish Catholic family, mm-hmm. and said, hey, I want to go to college. And my parents are like, great. Did you put money aside for that, or how's that going to work? So, well, what do you mean? So I knew I had to go out and drum up the money for that. So I went to work at a car dealership, a King Toyota in Deerfield Beach, Florida, and a great store, high volume Toyota store. And they're like, yeah, sure, kid, there's the keyboard, and that's the demo line, and let's see what you got. I'm 18 years old. I think I lied about my age, actually. I don't think they knew I was 18, but nevertheless, that's where it really all began. And I had some fast success selling cars. I wasn't always the top salesperson. In fact, I was never the top salesperson in that store. There was 32 salespeople. So I learned from really some great pros out there. But I was fortunate enough to go to work for a general manager that took me under his wing. And he said, look, I think you have what it takes in the business. From what I can see, you've done a great job with customers, and you're serious about it. Let me put you kind of on a fast-paced training program. And he did. So I was a new car manager, used car manager, desk manager. Put me in service for a while to write service so that I understood that. Put me in F&I. I was in F&I for about 2.5 years of my career. I got an opportunity to take over one of their small stores. I was GSM, called GM, but it was really the GSM. Sure. And that situation.
That's
and,
right.
Yeah. So I had the opportunity to then go to work for JM&A, which is also in Deerfield Beach, Florida, as many of you Toyota dealers know. Worked for Moran for a 1.5 years or so, and crisscrossed the country as a finance specialist.
That's right.
So was really enthused to be in that spot at that time. And then my first son was born, and my wife at the time was like, "No, this is not going to work. You're leaving on Monday and coming home on Friday." Right. This is tough, and it was. So I took a job with another dealer group, and that went very, very well. So it's been just a great career. In 1997, I went to work at AutoNation. They kind of came calling. Somebody knew of me and thought it might be the right fit. So when AutoNation first started, getting put together, I went to work for them, stayed with them till 2000, 2001. They promoted me to the national sales training manager position. I worked at the corporate headquarters. From there, after AutoNation, went back into operating Toyota dealerships, became a dealer principal at an Augusta dealership. Left that in 2003, opened up Force Marketing in 2004. Today, John does a great job running that, who's my son. Sold most all my interest to him, and he is off and running, doing a great job. And again, another automotive related business. In 2000, in that same time frame, Bridget and I said, well, this is something that we've been talking about, which is to put together a channel and a platform specifically geared towards automobile dealers. Automotive News, they do an incredible job, as everybody knows. I'm a huge fan, a subscriber, but I thought that there might be a missing piece there, and that is to be more dealer-centric, more dealer-focused, with a platform that provides news, information, training, trends in the industry and such, and also to add video to it. So
Right.
that's kind of been our secret sauce over the last 10 years. We celebrate our 10-year anniversary this year, which we're excited about. And in 2012, CBT News was born. Did not know what we were doing, had no idea. I bought the set on Google, figured out, let me find a company that can set up a new set. And everyone said, you guys are crazy. If it was so good, it would have already been done before. Who's going to advertise? Why would anybody come back to the channel? You know, what kind of content do you think you can provide? And of course, 5,000 video interviews later, you know, and 10 years later, we're so pleased to have CBT with the sponsorship of so many big companies out there, Cox Automotive, which has been a great player, but Ally and Allstate and JM&A and almost every company that feeds the auto industry has been on CBT News at one point in time or another. So that's what gets us to today.
So that's a big move. Let's back up for a moment.
Sure.
Obviously, you'd said you'd been thinking about this for a while, right?
Yeah.
While you were in automotive. What was the nudge that actually, I mean, it's a big leap of faith to go from a very successful career in what you were doing in your own right, certainly very comfortable, could have just stayed that pathway. This is a much different pathway into the unknown. What was it that really motivated you to make that move? That's a big decision.
Yeah, it's a great question, and one that, as I said, many people thought I was crazy. So I said to myself, after I exited Force Marketing and my son took over, I said, well, let me allocate some funds to this idea, right? To say, well, you know, as many entrepreneurs will do, they say, well, you know, it sounds like a great idea. You know, we don't know if there's going to be any advertising to support this. We don't know, you know, what's going to happen, right? Who are we going to be able to get to come on to the network since nobody knows about it and such? So it was interesting. I always looked at CNBC. I woke up to CNBC every morning. I'm like, this is what we need in retail automotive.
Yeah.
We need a place where there's a number of different shows throughout the day hosted by different experts. CNBC has all of the stock experts hosting different shows and such, whether it be in real estate or banking or stocks or whatever the case might be. But it starts off with a newscast, right? Here's what's happening in today's news that you need to know in the auto industry. So we use CNBC as kind of a mentor, you know, believe it or not. You know, it sounds pretty lofty, right? But that's what we did. And as you know, Bridget delivers the news every morning. We produce currently 9 different weekly shows on the network, hosted by different experts in the industry, Brian Pash and so many others. I mean, too many to mention. But these guys and girls are so good at what they do. You know, and we're so blessed to have them as hosts of our shows, and that really kind of started to grow, and then people, their circle of influence started to come on, and that's how it took off. But it was a big leap, and it was a lot of money. I mean, for the first year and a half, you know, Bridget and I were coming out of savings and writing our check, going, okay, well, we feel good about this idea, you know, and slowly advertisers came along as the audience came along, and more people started to talk and say, hey, I saw so-and-so on CBT. No, CBT, what the hell is CBT, right?
Right.
And then before you know it, it became, you know, second, I think, to Automotive News. In fact, Automotive News sent out a survey about 5 years ago, and you might have gotten one, to all of their subscribers. And it said, in addition to CBT News, what other platforms do you reference for your morning news? And Bridget and I, we went to dinner that night, toasted, who said, Automotive News just kind of solidified us as a viable platform for dealers to reference. And
that's cause for celebration right there.
Exactly. We were like, we made it. Automotive News is asking dealers, you know, who else in addition to CBT? And I've enjoyed such great relationships with their people over there. And of course, Jason Stein left last year, and he's done an incredible job, good friend. And so it's been great. And as I said, we've kind of stayed in our lanes. They do, you know, they do the everything on the OEM side, supplier side, and what have you. We really focus all of our energies on what's going to move iron today, what's going to help dealers service more vehicles, what's going to get more customers back to the showroom or the service center. How do you sell your business for top dollar in this incredible market? So those are all of the things that we address. Many of the issues that you address, you know, the direct to consumer sales approach that we've talked about so many times, and franchise laws, and what's happening with restrictions in DC. And we've had every chairman on for the last 10 years from NADA, the last 2 presidents on. So
Right.
So we've really become kind of that meeting spot for dealers, but it was a big leap of faith. Sorry to answer these questions so long.
No, look, it is very interesting. And you've mentioned Bridget a number of times. For those who may not know, that's Jim's wife, super talented. They work together very closely, obviously. What's that like? Not everyone works with their wife.
That's a great question.
Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. What's that like?
No, I'm on the air, so it's never not great. Okay.
That's right.
So, and many of you dealers out there and vendors, you work with your spouses. So,
Right.
it's got its moments, but by and large, it actually works great. We both stay in our lanes. She was actually the one that pushed me into, for us to go down this path with CBT News. And she bought me the URL for my birthday one day. She goes, "That's it. I just bought cbtnews.com. Happy birthday. We are doing this thing." So I'm like, wow, okay. Now we have a URL, and a week later we had a website and started filling it with content. But no, she is my partner on this deal. She should probably be here with me right now. She happens to be doing some shooting and recording, but nevertheless, we've just said, look, we know our lanes, and let's stick in them and let's stay in them. And oftentimes I'll go in and say, well, what are you doing on this, and this? And she goes, "Oh, did you want to take that lane over?" "Oh, okay, that's no problem." I'm like, "Oh, you know what? You're right. That's all you." So
fine, I'll be right here.
It's been working great.
Well, obviously it works well, and she is fantastic as well. I've enjoyed meeting her through the years. I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier, sort of a nice bridge or segue here to another topic. And you talked about as a young man and the importance of having that mentor, that person that took interest in you. This is a tough business, and as you and I were both at some point selling cars at the same time, and of course it's an industry known for heavy turnover. But talk a little bit about that. I mean, obviously it was such a huge impact in the road that you've traveled and brought you here. Is that something that you feel, and just in talking to dealers, is focused on enough, or what's your just take on a real mentoring program? Because in a dealership, as you know, that pace is so frantic in the day-to-day. Sometimes it's easy to lose sight of developing the talent that you have.
Jason, I'm so glad you brought this up, because we are so passionate, and I'm so passionate about this very point. In fact, it was part of the impetus to start CBT News, because I did see a tremendous void out there for salespeople and for managers, for that matter, in the way of training and encouragement and guidance and direction. Because I didn't get a lot when I started in the industry, with the exception of this one general manager, and he and I would talk about it, that there was not a big commitment to the to building up good people in the industry. We do suffer from a huge turnover rate of 70% plus on the showroom floor. As you know, many of tomorrow's managers and dealers will come from the showroom floor. So as you can see, that's like a hotbed of great talent. But if it turns over quickly and it goes out of the industry or goes to someplace else, we've lost a huge opportunity. But I would stand by this comment, and that is that the industry absolutely falls short in nourishing and nurturing, I should say, and training and supporting the people that come into it. It's still, and again, I'll probably get some emails on this, because my friends that do a great job in this area, I'm not talking to you. That's a very small portion of the industry. And you guys know what I'm talking about. The dealers that say, I have a training program, it lasts 5 days, they either get it or they don't get it, you don't have a training program.
That's right.
You have 5 days of a waste. All right. But for those companies out there that say, no, we have a 90-day training program, and then we have a mentoring program for 90 days after that, they don't hit the showroom floor for 120 days. And then they've got to go through a tremendous test to take our customers. That's a training program. Okay. But for those people and those dealers out there, and they still exist in a big way, that say, oh, we need 3 salespeople. Jason, go out and hire 10 salespeople. We'll end up with 3. Maybe we'll end up with 2. That's still happening today. And that's a shame, because there's a lot of baby boomers out there running dealerships. I'm a baby boomer. We were brought up that way. We were told that was the way you hired salespeople. And then we scratch our heads as dealers and dealer principals and go, why the hell do we have such a huge turnover? Don't they know this is a great industry? If we can call a spade, it's not a great industry in this area. And that's a very unfortunate situation, because it can be a great industry. But I'm working diligently on helping dealers to figure this part out. We need more females in the industry. We need more minorities in the industry. We need more talented people. I've got 2 kids in college right now. And I often say to myself, after I just spent $200,000 a kid to have them go through college, as many of you have, if they walk in and say, hey, I want to go sell cars, you might hit them with a brick and go, did you just go through college and say you want to come out and sell cars? And I'm in the industry. Okay.
Right.
So I would say, whoa, wait a second. Why are we now selling? Why do we just want to sell cars? Because as you and I both know, a dealer will say, sure, come sell cars for me. When you sell a car, you get paid. If you don't, you get a draw check. If I give you 2 draw checks, you're no longer employed for week number 3. Go sell something. Okay. Sounds cute, sounds clever. A lot of dealers will say, well, that's what builds a good sales team. I would massively disagree with that comment in today's environment. When you walk into a Starbucks, you see the sign that says now hiring, $15 an hour. Well, for those of you, I've already figured out it's $31,000 a year. That individual is guaranteed. It's a college reimbursement, and tuition. Right. It is a 60-day maternity leave if in the event that you should, get pregnant while you're on the job. Okay. It is a 2 weeks paid vacation. It is healthcare. It's a 401k account. It is all of these incredible things to make a cup of coffee. And yet when we turn around on the industry and say, go sell that $65,000 vehicle. Oh, by the way, we took a short deal on it. Not in the last 2 years. We took a short deal on it. Here's your $150 minimum commission. Here's your $200 minimum commission. After taxes, the person leaves with less than $150 selling a $65,000 item. And then we wonder why there's a big turnover. And we wonder why we don't have the talent coming into the dealerships. Because of this and because of social media, however you're treating your people, the world knows about it. It used to be just the individual know about it, right? And you would say, oh, that guy is a loser or that girl's a loser. We want to get him out of here anyway. Right. Folks, we have got to change the way we look at people coming into this industry and the way that we treat them. What are we doing? You're hurting yourselves. And don't get me started, Jason. No.
No, look, I know this is something you're passionate about. We've talked about this before, and it is interesting. I guess I'll use that word kindly in that it's still in many places being run the same way as it was 30 years ago when I got into selling cars, or not quite that long. 26 years.
A long time ago.
A long time ago. Right. But it still very much is that way. Now I am seeing dealers becoming more aware of from a benefit standpoint and the need to up their game on benefits to be competitive, right? To keep people and the dealers that have very rich benefits programs. And if you're working, it's a small industry, as we know, it's a big industry, but a small one. It is. And people move around, and part of the reason people can't keep and attain and maintain and grow their talent is because they'll lose it to a competitor that has a better program, a better, a more enriching program. So it is a big part. We talk about women in this industry, diversity in this industry. Automotive News just came out with their 40 under 40, recently, and that is the future. So to me, all the things you're making really ties back to growing, nurturing this industry, making sure we are maintaining a professionalism that will, this will sort of take me to my next subject, that will keep us in good standing or in good stead, if you will, in the eyes of whether it be government agencies or whatnot, where we have this perception of being bad actors or that's levied at us quite a bit in this industry. What are you seeing on that front? What are things that we should be really scared of right now that maybe isn't on the front page from your perspective?
I think that the industry obviously is going through such transition right now. We're trying to figure out EVs. We're trying to figure out digital retailing. Should we have it? Shouldn't we have it? What percentage of the customers are going to do it that way? We all see the Carvana commercials, the Vroom commercials. People, your customers today that are listening to this are figuring out, well, I've been buying a car from XYZ GMC for the last 25 years. And I didn't know I could buy it online. Okay. So there's a lot of different things out there that are challenges for today's dealer. It's funny you should bring up 40 under 40 with Automotive News, because I think, when the publication comes out with them, like, this is the new crop right here. This is where the hope of the industry lies, because these people under 40 are bringing a fresh set of eyes to the industry, because they themselves are consumers and they themselves are doing business in certain ways and hopefully they can bring those ways into retail automotive. because I think that is a big challenge. I think
Right.
that the dealer has to be willing to break the current sales model and say, all right, let's take a look at our entire sales process. Right now, the industry is faced with some OEMs that are threatening to say, we're taking this show because we don't think you did it right. We're taking this show directly to the consumer like Tesla did, like Rivion's doing, like
Right.
Lucid's doing, like other companies are doing, okay? We owe it to our customers, we owe it to our stockholders to go down this road.
Right.
They're not doing that because they feel that their dealer body did a really good job taking care of their customers. Okay, we all like to pat ourselves on the back and go, no, we're number one. We won awards. Everybody loves us. Everybody loves us. One thing I learned about the auto industry is just because you sold 200 cars doesn't mean you made 200 friends.
Right.
Okay, we all know those customers that drove off your showroom and said, that SOB, I'm never going back there again, even though they're driving your car with your name on the back. Okay, we all know that. We ourselves have done that with retailers. Okay, so just because you sold 15,000 cars last month, that does not mean that 15,000 people love you or that they're even going to come back to you.
Right.
So, you know, the one thing about, we talked about this too, actually, we talked about it at your conference and the Virginia Auto Dealers Conference, and that is this notion of manufacturers wanting to sell direct. Okay.
Right.
And why would that be? Oh my God, we're doing a great job. And don't you know that we sponsor the Little League games and we employ these people and we do this and we do that. And we're breaking our arm, patting ourselves on the back. Okay. At the end of the day, when you go to a dealer today and you say, you selling your cars for over sticker? Yes, I am selling my cars for over sticker. Is that taking care of your customers? Is that taking care of your community that you love so much that you donated to the field? Okay. Maybe a little less on the fields and a little bit more in taking care of your customers the way they need to be taken care of. And I know I sound very preachy right now, but this notion of charging over sticker price, while it's fun to do and we're having hellacious month after month after month in gross profit, it's going to come back to haunt us. Okay. If not with today's customer, certainly with tomorrow's OEM executive that goes, guys, we were watching, we were getting the emails, we were seeing how upset our customers got. Let's say I'm a Toyota executive and you're charging too much for the Tundra. Guess who hears about it? The Toyota executive, in addition to the head of the dealer group. Okay. Dealers today are making 3 times what they made in 2019. How about you make 2 times what you made in 2019?
Right.
And you sell the cars at MSRP. One dealer said to me in an interview recently, that says, remember, it says manufacturer suggested retail price. Suggested is the key word. Okay. If you want to go down that road and you know, win your customers over that way, it's completely up to you. As I said, I don't mean to sound too preachy. I know that I am, but I'm passionate about this industry. And I think if we screw it up, both on the sales side in terms of and the employment side, it's going to hurt us, or on the way we take care of today's customers. We cannot.
Now, you've been very upfront talking about this, and anyone that follows you knows that you're not scared to tackle these things that we touched on a little bit here today. One thing I do want to make mention of, or just sort of ask you, you know, a while back, you started getting involved with the ATAEs, the association heads throughout the country, my peers throughout the country. And I'm seeing more and more of that, which from my perspective is fantastic because it helps get messaging out of that engagement. What prompted you to start getting into that circle or going down that road, as it were, speaking to the folks on the government advocacy side of things?
Sure. Great question. So, you know, many of I would at NADA, I would meet, you know, yourself and of course your counterparts and your colleagues that ran associations, and they would, you know, we'd have these talks and they'd say, you know, we're doing some really cool things in our state. We're doing some really cool things that, you know, we're taking to our legislators and such. And I'm thinking to myself, we need to talk about this on air. This is like going back 7 or 8 years. And I felt as though, again, there was no national platform to give you all that voice out there, okay? Because it could very well be that you have some members out there, every association does, that gets the newsletter and goes, yeah, that's the newsletter, I'll read that later, okay? And maybe they don't even know what's going on, okay? They trust that their fellow dealers are staying in touch with it, okay? But they don't really know intimately what's going on the way that they need to know. So, but they might be watching CBT News, okay? Maybe it's done in a video and not a newsletter or not an email that they've got to read, here. So maybe they'll watch, Jason Wilson come on and talk to me about issues that they're facing and never know that you were facing them. And I'm a Kentucky dealer, for instance.
Right.
Okay. So
Right.
we saw that might be a great avenue. And then, of course, the more we did it, the more the association presidents reported back that was in fact the case. They saw what we were doing on CBT News. So they would thank me for that, to say, thanks for giving me the platform. The other reality is that what you guys are going through in a certain state, you might be fighting franchise laws.
Yep.
There might be 7 other association presidents that are watching CBT News and going,
Yep.
wow, that's it. What he's going through, it's the same thing I'm going through. Okay.
Well, and I can speak to that firsthand. I've seen some of that. That's where it's been valuable, at least from my perspective. I'm sure many of my peers, where yes, we meet throughout the course of the year at various times, but just like dealers, we're all in our own little worlds, very busy. So it is enlightening to see what is going on in other states, and it does sort of draw us together as well. So I applaud you for that. Let's finish on a couple just sort of quick questions I'll ask you and get your take on it, and we'll close out. What do you see as what's the best thing that has come out of this? We're almost post-pandemic. I mean, I'm leery to say that, but
I know, as we all are.
But what's something you see as a real positive that has come out of that experience in our industry?
For the industry, I think I'd have to point to efficiencies. I think that every dealer that I've spoken to said, wow, I didn't realize I could run a dealership on, 20% less headcount, or, without spending as much in advertising, or maybe spending, as much in other areas of the dealership. And yet we actually are making more money. So I would say that efficiency is also the way that we're treating our people that work inside the organization. I think it brought all of us together as a group, to win and to take care of customers. Obviously, it was identified early on that automobile dealers in many states were essential. Okay, that was a huge thing. I think people were in the industry felt good about it because they did get those first responders back to work and servicing their vehicles, or back on the road, or selling them, be able to sell cars, and also be able to sell customers cars and take care of their vehicles. And I think that was a big plus. And I applaud the industry for coming together the way that they have and that they did during those times. But I think efficiencies, it really gave us the opportunity to put our industry and the way that we run it completely under a microscope, and to kind of break the old model and say, here's the new model. Hopefully a lot of that new model stays, because as you know, during good times, bad habits can be formed. During bad times, good habits can be formed, and good structure. So hopefully that stays. But I think we are in an entirely new retail automotive environment than we were just 24 months ago.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The pandemic forced some folks that were grudgingly heading into embracing technology to now having to. So conversely, what's the worst thing that you've seen of our industry coming out of this these last couple of years? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, the worst thing, I that's a tough one, because I think that not that the list is so long, that the list is so short, because I think that as the industry as a whole, I think they performed very, 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 very good. I think that as we are right now, and I mentioned it earlier, it does concern me that, the way that we're taking care of customers on the topic of pricing. I think that that's showing some of the dark side that we need to clean up a little bit. And I know I'm going to, get some good dealer friends maybe mad at me for voicing that, but I truly feel that way. If I were running a dealership today and it was Fitzpatrick Toyota, I'd say, guys, stop at sticker price or MSRP, and that's it. And if that customer takes that car and sells it to CarMax for $2,000 more, or it shows up on eBay, don't let that change you. Don't let that change what your North Star is in taking good care of your customers. You're always going to have those outliers. You're always going to have that. It's like saying, listen, I had an employee that stole from me, so therefore I'm going to lock up every employee every day. I'm going to lock them out. You can't do that, folks. You got to know that that's going to happen. But don't let it change the way that you treat your customers in your market. It only takes one of these to go, guess what? I bought my 20th car from this dealership, and they just charged me $4,000 over for this F-150. Okay. I just got a gut punch. And now thousands of people know about that. It does not bode well for our industry as a whole. And it does not help our constant battle with the OEMs to let us do what we do and let them do what they do. They make them, we sell them. Let's keep it that way. Let's not keep it that way.
Absolutely. Well, Jim Fitzpatrick, thank you for spending some time with us today. Your
Absolutely.
perspective is a unique one in that all that you do each and every day, alongside your wife, who you just have a wonderful working relationship with.
Yes, I
We learned
do.
that today.
He is the rock of the family as well as the company. So
And it's so I'd invite everyone out there watching it. If you're not watching CBT News, we'll have the link to take you there. Sign up, watch it. It is a great resource. Every morning, my phone goes off with my little morning email from you all and the hot topics of the day, and it is extremely helpful. So thank you so much for your time and allowing me to interview you for a change.
oh, I am
And,
honored. This is
hopefully
great.
we'll do this again sometime.
Absolutely. Anytime. I'm there for you. I'm there
All
to
right,
help
well-
any dealers. Thank you
Well,
so
thank
much.
you very much. And stay tuned for our next podcast, Kentucky Dealers, and we'll see you down the road.